would you believe it, it has already been 1 month of the National League regional phase. And for the 1 month, I want to do a little recap of everything that has gone on so far. Starting off, we have the Northern League, where Birkenhead United are currently sitting top of the ladder. They've consistently been one of the top teams in Auckland in recent years. I believe in 2024 they even made the grand final against Auckland City but fell short. That's kind of been the story of Birkenhead for a while, kind of just falling short of the crosstown rivals, but right now they are currently set as the top dogs. So far they are currently first on the ladder, obviously, and also they are one of only 2 clubs in the Northern League to remain unbeaten so far. They've managed to beat clubs such as 4th placed Eastern Suburbs, Auckland City, Auckland United. A lot of strong competition to really set themselves apart. Not much to really be said, just a very good performance from them so far. So far, Birkenhead have only suffered 1 draw, which is very impressive. They're currently 2 points ahead. Not a huge buffer, but good stuff starting off. Next we go to the East Coast Bays, who are having a surprisingly good season compared to how they usually do. They are the other unbeaten club so far. So far they've gotten notable wins over Western Springs, who are the reigning Northern League champions, and currently 3rd place Fencibles United. This is a good win that is kind of setting them up as one of the top teams to beat a fellow top team. However, they're still yet to beat much of the notable perennial top players. But either way, great stuff from them so far. Coming in 3rd place, we have Fencibles. Fencibles actually have the best goal difference in the league so far. However, they are yet to beat any true contenders, and these last 2 rounds they have stumbled a little, so we'll have to see how things continue. But either way, this is a great start considering last season they were promoted, didn't really do too much. So good stuff from them. Coming up 4th, we have Eastern Suburbs. This is, I guess, about roughly where they usually sit for these kind of competitions. They're kind of just one of them perennial top 4 teams, but either way, they are so far in the qualification range. So that is plenty to be happy about so far, although I guess they're still pushing for the title, obviously. Coming in at 4th, we have Auckland United. Again, this is roughly where they are, only, I guess, lower. They usually are in the top 4. They are currently outside, but they're also 3 points behind and have 6 goals behind Eastern Suburbs. Not great stuff, but either way, it's early into the season, they can obviously pull it off. And they did get a win against Auckland City, notably, so it's always some good stuff. Coming in at 6th, shockingly, it is Auckland City, the dominant force, the Bayern Munich of New Zealand, is seriously struggling this year. If you've seen my TikTok and Instagram, I've made a video on them detailing how they've lost a lot of players obviously, but either way, so mid-table, not great by their standards. This is roughly the same as when, I'm pretty sure this is roughly the same as when they were at the Club World Cup. This was back when they were basically feeling like their second team, because their main guys, obviously, they were off in America. I think what was most shocking is that they suffered 3 straight defeats, all 1-0 to the usual big competition. I guess the silver lining is that it's to the usual big players, but either way, by Auckland City standards, this is not a good start, and you have to wonder, will they be able to pull it back? Especially since they don't have access to the Club World Cup anymore. They might not have the same pool that they wanted to, but despite that, I still suspect they'll get a number of players from the OFC Pro League when that ends. Coming in at 7th, we have Western Springs. This is insane. Last season in 2025, they were the Northern League champions, stealing it from Auckland City, preventing them from getting 4 straight, although I guess that season they finished 4th. Semantics. Either way, this hasn't been a great start to this season. They've lost notable games to Auckland City at the start, East Coast Bays, Eastern Suburbs, I believe. So them losing to the top teams, like, it kind of tells me they're probably not gonna pull it back, but you can never say never. I'd argue it's just more motivation to push hard and recover this season. Again, it's only early. There's only 6 rounds for the Northern League. Coming in at 8th, we have Melville United. They're one of the 2 newly promoted teams this year. It's been a bit of a rough start, but I think as a promoted team, they do get a degree of grace. How things are, they do have the same record as Auckland City and Western Springs, that being, I believe it is, yes, 2 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. Not great, but end of the day, they're not the worst team out there. They're freshly promoted. I say all power to them. Keep going. Coming in at number 9, we have an interesting one. Tauranga City. This is a bit of a worse placement for them compared to previous seasons. However, they were able to surprisingly beat Fencibles. I believe the score was 5-3. They were able to draw East Coast Bays. To pull results like that against the big teams, I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. I think they could definitely be doing worse. So congrats for those wins. Coming in at 10th, we have the Auckland Reserves. Please ignore this in the background. I'm not going to put any bias into here, but this is undeniably not a great start for them to be so low. You also have to remember that next season they're going to be in the National League, which will be like a proper first top flight home and away. So I think, considering that, they probably want to be picking it up. I reckon, especially with their automatic qualification into like this year's National League, for them to finish so low could definitely ruffle some feathers. That said, they actually didn't do too badly in the National League last year. The lads do know how to turn it up when it matters. But yeah, overall, I think they'll definitely want to be fighting to pull away from the relegation zone. Otherwise, next year could be looking pretty rough for them. Coming in at 11th with Bay Olympic. This has definitely been a troubling season for them. 6 games in, they're currently sitting at 4 losses. Not great. They were able to record a win, thankfully for them. However, they are in the relegation zone. That said, there's no relegation in the Northern League this season, just because we could be looking at like 5 to 6 clubs being promoted in 2027s. So they could be looking for 2027 to be their year, considering how many new clubs will be coming in. But yeah, overall not looking great. And then coming in at last, number 12, we have Manukau United. It's not been great for them. They're still yet to win a game, unfortunately, and they've picked up 5 losses. Obviously the worst goal difference in the league. Not much they can do. They're the other newly promoted club, not obviously doing worse than Melville. I guess the only silver lining is that they're not going to be relegated, so might as well dedicate this year to a rebuild and try and make 2027 your year. Yeah, so overall thoughts this early on, looks like Birkenhead United and East Coast Bays are going to be the primary contenders this year. Personally, I'm nodding towards Birkenhead. I think this is going to be their year after many years of falling short to their contemporaries. I think finally 2026 will be the year of Birkenhead. Next up, we have the Central League. So far, we are 4 rounds into the Central League, and right now it is the Miramar Rangers sitting at the top with a 3-point gap. They're one of the 2 clubs so far unbeaten in the Central League. I don't particularly have too many notes for them. Obviously, they've performed well. They've won their games. They drew with Wellington Olympic at the start of the season. Overall, they're performing very well. I think this is a good follow-up from the last season when they fell short of the National League Grand Final. It was right there for them, but obviously this could be the year that they finally pull it in for themselves and pick up some silverware once again. At second, we have Western Suburbs. Obviously they're also one of the perennial top clubs in the Central League. The biggest win so far is a 3-0 thumping of FC Western, the newly promoted team. not a, I guess, a huge notable result to have, but it's early on. I think you take what you can get. At third, we have the Napier City Rovers, the furthest away team compared to everyone else. They are the second team who are so far unbeaten in the competition this year, and most notably, they were able to upset Wellington Olympic 3-0, and it was an away game at that. That's a huge result for the Central League. You know, beating Wellington Olympic in and of itself is a mission. To do it 3-0 and away, all power to you. Congratulations for that. At number 4, we have Petone. They are right outside of National League qualifications. It is worth pointing out that they're only outside because of goal difference. They have 7 points, which is the same as Western Suburbs and Napier. In fact, they're only behind Napier by 1 goal, so they're still very much in the running. Nothing to be afraid of so far. The biggest win has been a 5-0 win over FC Western. Poor guys getting thumped early on. Coming in at 5th, around the mid-table with Wellington Olympic. This has been a same as all conceded. This has been a pretty noticeable fall off by their standards. They're not usually struggling like this. Usually they're stomping over the whole league. So for them to be mid-table right now, pretty shocking. But it's a similar story to Petone. They're on 7 points, only behind on goal difference. Nothing to be too scared of. They did get a 1-0 win away to Western Suburbs, who are second. So I wouldn't quite count them out yet. Coming in at number 6, we have Upper Hutt City. They were promoted last season. I suppose this isn't where they would want to be, however mid-table, nothing to be too ashamed of. You're still in, they're on 6 points, so there's still 1 win could realistically jump them way up the ladder if need be. They were able to get a 2-0 win over Petone in round 1, so they are a noticeable threat this season. Coming in number 7th, we have the Wellington Phoenix Reserves. Now, to be fair, for Auckland, which is very critical of, I'm going to in turn be very critical of the Phoenix Reserves. They need to step it up. There are, there's 3 teams ahead of them on the standings. For the Phoenix to qualify for the National League above them, that's going to ruffle some feathers too. I think that is unfair that, a team can finish so low and get steal spots from other teams just because they're part of a pro team. This obviously goes to Auckland as well. No substantial win so far, but things can change, so we'll have to see. So coming in at 8th, we have Island Bay United. Not a great start to the season for them, obviously. They were able to start the season off with a 4-0 win over Karori. However, they haven't really been able to do much with that, so thus they've fallen to 8th. Near the relegation zone, but obviously no relegation. Coming in at 9th, we have Waterside Karori. They have lost every single game so far. It has been a horrible start to the season. I'm currently sitting on a -8 goal difference. Yeah, I guess not much to say. There's no relegation, so I guess it's just kind of going to be a bit of a season to forget. And finally, coming in at 10th, last place on goal difference, it is FC Western. They're also yet to win any of their games. However, again, they're on a -12 goal difference. Not great. The newly promoted club, it's kind of like, what can you really do? They did admittedly have some tough competition early on, a game against Olympic, Western Suburbs, Petone. So again, it's a tough run of teams. Hopefully they can improve. I think some of their upcoming matches are going to let us know how they're really going to perform over the season. So thoughts overall in the Central League so far. I think it's very interesting at the moment, especially for Olympic to fall off like this. It is worth noting that kind of similar to Auckland City, they're basically guaranteed into the future National League. So there's not a whole lot of stakes for them technically. There's not more room for other clubs to kind of step up and fight for the remaining 2 qualification spots. However, I just don't think this is over for them. Again, they're tied for second on points. 1 game is all it really takes to throw them right back into the title picture. I do think they're going to come back. They got a win over Western Suburbs. I just highly suspect this isn't going to be a bit of a fall-off season. As for Miramar though, honestly, I am rooting for them to win. Admittedly, it's kind of an either Olympic scarf here, but I feel like once you have achieved a certain level of dominance, you want other people to win, right? And with Miramar's start, I think they have a decent shot at coming first, although their gap is narrow so far. But yeah, I'm suspecting this is mainly going to be competed between Miramar, Western Suburbs and Olympic. And finally from here we move on to the Southern League, where we start off with first place Kashmir Technical. What can you say about them that hasn't already been said? I've made a video about them on TikTok and Instagram. They are destroying everyone in their path. They have an absurd amount of goals. They've had huge wins, like a 9-0 win over Wanaka, 6-0 win over Northern. They are just really setting themselves apart. Frankly, I don't think anyone will be contending for the title against them. I think they're genuinely just about to trample the league and very soundly win and secure their promotion into the National League next season. You know, they've already had 2 top of the table clashes against Ferrymed, against Northern. Each time they won soundly. You can't really compete with this. On top of this, the top 3 goal scorers in the league at the moment, I believe they're all Kashmir. So what is there you can really do against this team? They are the best so far. They've won every game. Not much else you can really say. Coming in at second, this team would, with a performance like this, they would, under most circumstances, they'll be tough contenders for the title. It's for Kashmir. It is Ferrymed Bays. Their loss has been to Kashmir. They've won every single game other than that. They've beaten clubs like reigning Southern League champions Coastal Spirit, Dominant Force, Christchurch United, Northern, who are currently 3rd. You know, when you're beating teams like that after 5 rounds, you would really think you'll be playing for the title. Unfortunately, Kashmir. This isn't about Kashmir, this is about Ferrymed. What a great start to the season. They are looking like strong contenders to what I believe would be their first National League appearance this year. They currently sit 3 points above third place. I suspect this should be a very strong season. They're setting themselves up very well for next year as well. So kudos to them. Going at number 3, we have Northern. I'm a bit biased towards Northern because I'm playing social grade for them this year. I guess gotta watch what I say. Overall, they are the top performing promoted club around all the leagues this year. You know, while Melbourne, Manukau, Western are struggling at the bottom, Northern are competing for the top. So far, they've had a bit of a polarizing season. So far, a lot of the clubs they've beaten, such as Wanaka, Nomads, Nelson, they haven't been having the perfect seasons so far. I know that Nomads is starting to turn it around, but you also got to look at it like the only teams that have beaten them are literally the top 2 teams right now. They have an upcoming match against Christchurch United this weekend. I think that'll be a very strong indicator of where they're going to stand in respect to the league this year. Very important game, probably a season defining one. So good luck to them there. Up the north. Speaking of which, coming at number 4, Christchurch United. Obviously, they are 2-time winners of the National League, one of the best clubs the nation has ever seen. It's been a bit of a wobbly season so far. I'd say they starting off the season with a loss, not great, but they have obviously their 4th right now, 7 points, still 5 points behind 5th place, but you know, only the start of the season, they can push hard. And I think similar thing to Northern, this upcoming game will be very season defining for them, I would have to say. It is worth noting though that they did lose a good number of starters to their sister club, South Island United, so I guess a fall-off was predictable, but oh well. Coming in at 5th, we have the reigning Southern League champions, Coastal Spirit. Not quite the year, so I guess you could say this season all the reigning champs have not been having a great time, but you know, they are 7 points tied with Christchurch United, still in range to do some serious damage. They had to really pick up a significant win, unfortunately, but it's early starts of the season, you never know. Coming in at 6th, we have Nelson Bays. They had a bit of a rough start to the season, picking up 2 losses, but recently they have been able to turn it around a bit. Recently picked up a 6-0 thumping, or I guess whacking, of Selwyn United. I think this is a good win you want to have when pushing for the top. It'll be interesting to see how they are able to improve this season. Coming in at actual 7th, we have Nomads United. They're similar to Nelson Bays. They had a bit of a rough season, but they've been able to pull off back-to-back wins against Coastal Spirit and Eden City Royals. And from what I've heard, they've recently recruited a player or a few players who have been able to really turn things around for the club. So it'll be exciting to see how they progress from here. I mean, at 7th, we have the Dunedin City Royals. Yes, not great placement for where they would want to be. They obviously they want to be a bit higher, but what can you do? They did get a good win over Christchurch United at the start of the season. Oh, sorry, 8th on the ladder. Overall, no significant wins, but I think the Christchurch United one is always one to be proud of. First win against them in, I imagine, a few years, really. We'll see how they go. Coming in at 9th, we have Selwyn United. They were meant to be relegated at the end of 2025. However, the University of Canterbury pulled out the Southern League, thus they got to stay up. I guess they're not last. I guess that's something to be relatively happy about. However, if they want to prove they really did deserve to stay up, they're going to want to pick up some more wins and really lift their placement to show they do in fact deserve to be here. They are only behind the Royals by 1 goal difference. So you know, one game can always turn it around. Finally, we have Wanaka. Just not easy. They lost a lot of players from what I've heard, which has meant they haven't been able to hold any form. They had a massive loss to Kashmir Technical, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I guess sort of like the others, saving grace is that there's no relegation this season, so if I was Wanaka, I would use this season just as a bit of a rebuild phase to make sure that next year is one where they get to compete more. Yeah, so overall thoughts, I think Kashmir Technical is going to run away with it. I think unless they have a severe injury crisis, I just don't see how anyone else can catch up to them. At this point, I think most of the competition will be through who can get to that final promotion spot, which is mainly going to be competed between Ferrymead Bays, Northern, probably Christchurch United. I think those are what to look out for. Obviously Nelson Bays and Nomads, they seem to be turning it around, keep an eye on them. And yeah.